Welcome back to Hamilton Life. Oh, it's one of Ontario's most interesting historical destinations. It boasts a stunning collection of over 35 restored historical buildings, and it's located on 204 acres of woodlands, meadows, and trails. It's just gorgeous. And this week, the crew went out to Westfield Heritage Village to make some good old Canadian maple syrup. Here's Cable 14's Harmony Mackenzie.
Maple syrup is in the air today. Not literally, but it is Maple Syrup Festival here at Westfield Heritage Village. I am here with Peter Lloyd. You are the maple syrup expert here. You do the tree tapping.
Yeah.
You essentially get it from tree to table.
It's true.
How does this happen?
Well, first thing you have to understand is what's really happening. And what's really happening is that the trees are coming out of dormancy. The winter's ending and spring is starting, and the trees are taking water out of the ground, mixing it with sugar they made last year in their roots, and they're pushing that sap water up through their bodies all the way to the buds at the top of the tree. And the sugar that's in the sap that we're going to make into syrup is actually the food that makes the buds on the tree open up and turn into this year's leaves.
Amazing. And now a lot of these trees we're looking at out here are creating maple syrup?
Well, they're maple trees and they're running sap right now. Well, when it warms up just a couple more degrees, they're going to run sap.
It's very cold today. All right, so give us a little demonstration on how this process works.
Okay. One of the secrets of this business is that the sap we're after is actually right behind the bark on the outside of the tree. It's not in the middle of the tree like the tree's a straw. It's in the outside couple rings of wood right out here on the outside of the tree. So for us to get the sap to come out of the tree, we just have to drill a hole in that breaks that wet layer underneath the bark.
Is that what this contraption is?
Yeah, this is your grandpa's old school drill.
Hey, it works though.
It's brace and bit, and it does work, and the battery never dies. So what we're going to do actually is just drill in about that far with the brace and bit, like this way, into the tree, and drill a hole about that deep.
That's all it takes.
That's all it takes. And at that point, I'm going to pull out a spile. This is like a little funnel that you can stick into the wood of the tree. And now the sap that's behind here is going to leak into the spile and drip off there, and I'll hang a bucket on that hook, and it'll be caught in the pail like this. And on a good day, like when this thaw comes after this freeze, I might get 3/4 or a full pail in a single day.
And that could be a liter or more.
Oh yeah, this several liters is going to be in here, like 5-liter pail. Bad news, it would take 8 of these pails to make a single liter of maple syrup.
That's a little sad. A lot of work.
That's a little sad, so that's a lot of collecting.
What happens after you've put the bucket in? Is it a long wait?
Well, you got about 5 weeks of the season where the bucket hanging on this tree might get some good sap in it. Some days you would get 1/4 of a pail, some days you'll get a full pail, some days you get nothing.
So you got all your full pails or your half pails. What do you do then?
You come by and you collect them all one at a time. Now this is really the 1950s way to do things. The commercial guys now don't mess around with pails. They've got plastic lines like this, and they'll stick a plastic spile into a tree, run some pipe to the next tree, tap it, and then the sap runs down the pipeline, and you collect it that way. You don't walk around in the woods with these metal pails anymore. But you would collect your sap into some kind of barrel or container and take it to the sugar shack for processing.
Walk us through what we're doing now. We've collected all of our buckets of sap.
And we've put them into barrels. I've got 55-gallon drums of sap that we've collected. And when it comes out of the barrel to go into the evaporator, you want to make sure it's really clean. There's little chips of bark and bits of wind-blown dust and stuff that get into the sap pails. So we're going to go through this really fine mesh filter because we want to keep the sap super clean.
And it looks like water. That's amazing.
Yeah, it is just about water. There's maybe 2% sugar when it comes out of the tree.
And that's why we need so many buckets.
Yeah, that's why it's pretty daunting how much sap there is to get syrup. So I'll put this in the back kettle. This big kettle on the back of the machine is where the raw sap goes in. And it doesn't look like it from here, but the bottom of that tank is actually 8 feet of stainless steel folded up in like an accordion on the bottom. And that gives it
This is not something the average person at home is just going to have.
no, this is like a farmer one, right?
Amazing.
If a farmer had a wood lot on the back of his farm, he might get a machine like that.
So we dump all of the filtered sap into here, and then how long does it take essentially to go through this phase?
It's going to boil in here for a number of hours. The trick with this is it's continuous input. So I'm constantly adding in the back, and then it comes out of the front very slow. Now this is the first batch of the year. We just loaded the machine. So I've put 2.5 barrels of sap into the machine, and nothing's come out the front yet.
Wow.
All of it's just going away as steam.
It's evaporating.
Yeah, because I have to do this 40-to-1 evaporation business, I'll probably put 5 or 6 barrels of sap into the machine before we get anything out the front.
Wow.
The thing that actually leads the process is this kettle on the front. This is called the finishing kettle, and because this is the first batch of the year, it's just barely yellow now. See how it's just barely yellow? It's starting to turn color. As the water leaves as steam, the sugar stays behind in the pot.
It'll get thicker.
And as the sugar concentrates, the color begins to change. The middle pot is half cooked, and this you're trying to get up to 66% sugar. It's not done until it's 66% sugar. I'll show you what that looks like. So that's sap from the tree, and it's clear as anything, right?
It has to make you wonder how this was discovered, because if I was out looking at a tree, I never thought that could become that.
Yeah, and the other trick is that lots of trees taste bad.
Yeah.
So if you just randomly tried, you're more likely to get a bad tasting one than a good one.
Whoever invented maple syrup, God bless them for figuring this out.
But that's what I'm trying to get to. And it's really delicious. But it's 66% sugar. It has pretty much the same amount of sugar as jam. And for the same reason, it's so that it won't spoil in the jar.
It's crazy to think that came from multiple buckets of sap.
Yeah. Oh, the
Fascinating.
huge volume comes right down to that.
All right, our last step is to taste it.
Yeah, our last step is to taste it, sure. I've got some here.
And that's the part I really came for.
You can try out, this is the really good stuff. And there's something about having it in context. Tasting it out here, it makes it better.
Well, you can smell it, you see it. It's very authentic.
Yeah.
All right.
Cheers. Here's the spring.
Amazing. I need some pancakes to go with it, but absolutely amazing. And speaking of pancakes, though, you can get that here at Maple Syrup Festival. And it is going on until Easter weekend, so there are registrations left, I understand. You can head to westfieldheritage.ca to find out more.
That's good.
Amazing. Amazing, amazing.